everybody. It's Tuesday, and you know what that means? Tuesday noon Eastern time. It's time for Building Wins Live. Hey, I'm your host, Randy Chafee, and I'm glad to have you here today. We've got an outstanding guest today. We have the Brothers Loding. That's what I've always called them. Actually, I never called them that until now, but we have the Brothers Loding, Ty and Chris from Jensen Bridge. You don't want to miss. Hang on, we'll be right back with the boys. There they are.
Hey, Randy. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Chris, Ty, it's great to be here. Appreciate it, man. I appreciate you guys being here. So I'm going to do a quick introduction, and then I'll ask you to maybe start out with telling a little bit about who you guys are. But for anybody that doesn't know Jensen Bridge Supply, they should. These guys have been good friends of mine, and that's the beauty of this business, right? Is you build friendships, you build relationships just beyond business, right? And we've spent a lot of time together. We was chatting off air before the show, which we want to chat about on air because we probably shouldn't. But we've had some great times together in cities all over the United States, haven't we, boys? I mean, it's been a good run.
Oh, definitely. 10 years plus.
Yeah, good stuff. So before we even get started, so Ty and Chris is the bearded one, and Ty is the unbearded one. President, Chris is president of the company. Ty is vice president. If I got that pretty well accurate. Is there like more names? Executive superstar, you know?
No, that kind of sums it up. We're good.
And so, give us, whoever wants to go first, a couple minutes of who's Chris or who is Ty, and then we'll get into some things I kind of want to chat about.
Okay, well, I'll start it off. I'm 34 years old. I've got a fantastic girlfriend named Kim. She's a bit of a firecracker, but keeps me in line.
Which you need.
Which I absolutely need, no doubt about it. I enjoy playing golf. I enjoy traveling, spending time with friends and family. I've been with Jensen Bridge since I was 13 years old. So I've been in the business for 21 years now and president since 2018.
Awesome. Ty, who's Ty?
Yeah, so I'm 30 years old, and I've got my wonderful wife, Kelsey, and her maiden name is actually Jensen. So I get a lot of jokes that I should have took her name and became Tyler Loading Jensen, or Tyler Jensen Loading, which kind of funny.
Or if he was Madonna, you could just be Jensen.
There, that would have worked too.
Michael.
Yeah, for sure. We just had a baby boy in September, Cassius. So he's been keeping us busy. It's our first child together, so it's been awesome. Amazing feeling. I've also worked at Jensen since I was 13 years old, mowing lawns, sweeping floors, a lot of floors, weed whacking,
lots of floors,
and so it's been fun.
Awesome. So the first question I know a lot of people would ask, because for anybody that doesn't know, Jensen Bridge relationship with me is not only great friends, but an outstanding customer, and they're a metal roll former. Okay, so they roll form metal, sell wholesale through Michigan, Ohio, and I think parts of Indiana too, right? In the northern corners, at least.
Yep, northeastern.
But I know the answer to this, obviously, but where'd the bridge come from? Because I think it's a great story. I mean, Jensen Bridge and Supply on the outside is an odd name for a metal roll former, right? So
yeah, so it all started in 1923. The owner at the time was Andy Jensen, and we sold and distributed all parts that it took to make a bridge at that point. I-beams, bridge decking, whatever it may be. And then my grandpa actually took it over in the 70s, so we're third generation. And then our father took it over in the 80s. And 3 years ago, I became vice president and Chris became president. And throughout this whole thing, we just kept the Jensen Bridge name. It made sense. It was our brand, and we didn't feel the need to change it.
That makes sense. So it's a long time. So the going back, Jensen was Grandpa Jensen or great Grandpa Jensen.
Well, it wasn't related to us.
It wasn't. Okay.
No. Our Grandpa Loading took it over in the 1973.
Gotcha.
Is when we officially took over the business from Paul Jensen.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Perfect. So that's and the last thing with the bridge part that I still find is interesting, because you guys are roll former geniuses, obviously rolling wrinkle tin as I call it, but you roll some other things that are a little bit heavier duty and more complicated, right? Why don't you tell us real quick about that, and then we'll get into the roofing world.
Yeah, so if you've ever been driving along and you see giant metal tubes under the road, we manufacture those. They're steel culverts. We do anywhere from 6-inch to 144-inch diameter. The longest pipe we've ever ran is about 92 feet long.
92.
So,
Wow.
92. Yeah. Yeah. And we're talking about some heavy duty material all the way down to 8 gauge. So, for instance, 144-inch 8 gauge pipe weighs 275 pounds per foot.
Wow.
So, this is heavy duty stuff.
Yeah, I've been in your plant several times and watched you make those, and it's pretty amazing because if I remember, you're roll forming it first, and then you're what do you do? What do you call that process to arch it, to make it round?
So, like you said, it's just simply roll forming, and then we roll it up into whatever diameter we need. And honestly, you can just keep running it for however long you want. When it's time to cut it, say you want to cut it 40 feet, turn the saw on, and it moves along with the pipe as it's being made to ensure an even cut.
Okay. Awesome. So when you got into roll forming, or when the company got in, you guys were little guys then, I assume, because that's been quite a while. I'm not little, but when did you start? It was, if I remember right, didn't you buy pre-cut steel first, or job packs and itself?
Yes. So we would buy in 10s, 20s, 30-foot lengths, and then chop them down as we needed per order. And then in the year 2000 is when we purchased our first roll former, actually.
Okay, 2000.
And that's where our panel Ultra 2000 came from.
Got it. Okay, makes sense.
That's when we started manufacturing it ourselves.
Okay, so you're 2010, so you're ways into this already.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So when you started out, because I think one of the interesting things is a couple thoughts in my mind was so you're a family business. I know your dad Roger well. I mean, we've also spent some time at baseball games and some Greek town eating and other spots of the country together with Raj. Let's tell him hi, by the way. Maybe he's watching now, so if he is, hey Raj. So when did you guys think from an early age that you're going to be running this operation at some point? Or did that come a little later in life, or was that the plan? I mean, you went off to college, you came back, now you're running the operation, president and vice president. Was that like a plan from early when you're 13, 15, 16? Was that the plan between you and your dad? Well, because I'm always interested in father, son, family things, just how that works, if you don't mind talking about it.
No, not at all. I'll start off. My dad has never, ever pushed us to get into the business. It was never something that was expected that, hey, you need to come back, you need to run this company. He said, hey, you do whatever you want. That's up to you. In the back of my mind, I always kind of thought I would come back. We're very fortunate to have a family business and to have that opportunity to work at a family business. We're very, very lucky in that regard. And so, when I went off to college, I kind of thought, maybe I want to do something like, be a journalist along those lines. But I always kept coming back to Jensen Bridge. What an opportunity this is. And so in 2009, I called my dad and I said, hey, I would like to come back and work for the company. And he said, all right, let's see what we can do. And the rest is history.
Perfect. Ty, same kind of story.
Yeah, for me, I actually never planned to come back until my junior year of college. I kind of always wanted to go to a bigger city, things like that. And as I got older and kind of matured, I was like, man, it's a pretty cool opportunity to work with my brother, work with my dad, help continue to build what my grandpa built. So yeah, when I was about 22 years old is when it clicked on my man. This is what I want to do. I want to raise a family back home and work at Jensen Bridge. So the rest was history.
The only thing that you just said that I got to correct you on, I think, so Ty, because I've been with you before. We've established that you haven't matured yet, neither have I.
Yeah, you might be right.
But there's good news. You got a ways to go yet. You still have time. I read on Facebook, and we know everything on Facebook is accurate and correct, right?
Of course.
100%.
That if you haven't grown up by the time you turn 60, you don't have to. And so I'm over that. So you got what you got.
Yeah, there you
So you
go.
guys got a few years yet. So you came back, Sandusky, little town of 2,800 people, I'm guessing probably.
Yep.
Almost
Yep.
right on the money.
Yeah, I know. I do research things.
Good.
But anyway, came back, family business, raised a family, and I know you and Chris, you and Kim are, I think, pretty serious.
Very serious.
Yeah. I do need two things, by the way. I do need to give my final approval because I haven't yet. I haven't met her because of COVID. So
Of course.
we'll do that. And secondarily, I can be in the back of the church, but I need to be at the wedding, just like I was with Ty's. We have a
You have my
verbal
word to
agreement
be at the wedding, buddy.
before everybody.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. We got that solved. So anyway, I came back, started family business. At the start, I believe you was retailing metal pretty much nonstop, pretty much all retail right at the start, and then at some point you started retail and wholesale. Then you made more of a switch to wholesale, right? Because you would consider yourself a wholesale roll former now as opposed to a retail roll former, right? I mean, you're selling through a dealer network.
Yeah, 100%. So we sell to lumber yards.
Right.
Yeah, and that happened back in the early 2000s. We thought it would be more advantageous for us to kind of go that route and a little bit easy for distribution.
Right. So was that hard? Because I know a lot of guys that maybe listen to this around the country that are roll formers and maybe at the younger stages than you are. Let's face it, when you start with any business, I know some of the products that I sell you. At one point in time, if you had pennies and Beanie Babies, I'd take it to get an order, right? I mean, at the early you do what you do, but at some point you have to sort of firm that up and solidify your go-to-market route, right? Was it a tough transition when you made the decision to go from retail to wholesale? I mean, I know it's been a great decision. It's been great for you guys, but was that a tough decision to make? Was it a tough transition to make?
Randy, that's just a little bit before our time.
Okay.
But I have talked to my dad about it, and they're selling to all these contractors, and it's going okay. But it's a big gamble because they have no idea how it's going to go. If our product's going to be accepted, if they're going to carry it. So they took a big risk in doing it. So I'm sure there were many sleepless nights debating on what to do, which route to go.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, you've managed it well because your service levels and those kind of things. I know I just know by knowing you guys so well have been awesome. So, what are your pillars, if you will, of as you continue to build Jensen Bridge forward? There's three triad. There's 3 points of the triad, right? There's price, quality, service. They're all important, but I always see you guys as a quality product, service oriented company first. Is that the way you see yourselves? Is that the way you see the future? Is that where this future goes in this kind of industry?
Yeah, I think you have to have quality first. I mean, without quality, you have nothing. I mean, you can't be putting out a bad product. But customer service is definitely our strength, 100%.
Yeah, it's Ruben. Do you know Ruben Miller with Triad? He was on my show 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, no, I watched it.
He calls me the wedding crasher, which I guess I am.
So we're not the first people that you've had this conversation with about going to their wedding beforehand.
Apparently not. I apparently have no life. That's what I do is I crash weddings, I guess, but only people I like. So,
yeah, there you go.
So the transition was before your time, but obviously it went pretty painless, it appears, because there probably was some pain at the start, I was sure, with your dad in trying to explain maybe to a customer that was buying that we got to kind of go a different direction. That's never always easy, right? But it sounds like a good decision. So tell me about 2020, something everybody wants to talk about, right? We just got out of it. I don't know if we're really out of it. It seems to be stringing along, especially some states more than others. How did you guys adapt to 2020 in general? I mean, it had to have a lot of things internally that you guys had to pay attention to on a day-to-day basis. How did you guys maneuver those waters?
Well, at the end of March, when the world was going to hell, frankly, We really didn't know what was going to happen. You see this thing just sweeping across the U.S. or across Europe, and then hitting New York so hard. We had no idea how deadly it was, what it was. So we're just taking everything day by day. And one of the biggest things is we just communicated with our employees. We said, hey, this is what we got going on. And we just try to talk to them at least on a weekly basis. And I try to put out a letter every week saying what's happening with it, what's going on, what it's looking like. And I think that reassured people a little bit. From a business standpoint, we're thinking, what's this going to do to our sales? Are we going to have to lay everybody off? What's going to happen? And we were very fortunate that we fell under critical manufacturing.
Right.
So we could continue to operate, just we had to put in all this proper safety protocols, sanitize everything, and adjusting to that, it's been a lot for sure.
Yeah.
But it's helped us, it's transitioning us into a place where we're learning how to work remote, how to do it effectively. And it's shown us that, hey, maybe we can, do some things remote where before we just didn't even think it was possible for us.
Right. Ty, anything to add to that?
Well, from a market standpoint, I mean, it was pretty wild, just with steel pricing and everything. So in April and May, I mean, you could get steel. I mean, the steel mills were begging you to pretty much buy from them. And fast forward to Q4 of last year, and if you ask any steel buyer, that is not the case anymore. It's the price is sky high. The market's tightest that maybe it's ever been from people that I've talked to who have been in it for a while. And, it's kind of just been the perfect storm. And as you know, our industry, it was busy. It was busy
Yes.
all year. People had extra money from stimulus, unemployment, not traveling, and they wanted to fix up their houses, put pole barns up, use everything like that. So it's been very interesting to say the least.
Yeah. So you found, obviously, because I know you guys are communicators, communicating with your people probably is huge. How about customer pushback? Was you able to, I assume, transition that with all your lumber yards? I know you have like 300-400 lumber yards that you service. So that's a bunch of people, a bunch of personalities, a bunch of needs, right? It had to be a full-time job to keep that communication with your sales team to what you guys are doing. Yes, we're going to stay open. Yes, we're going to be able to produce. We might need to do this, or we might need to do that. I mean, so it's a communication with your own people, but I got to imagine you spent quite a bit of time, more time than we normally would, communicating with our customers, right? I know I had to communicate more with customers probably than ever, and in a different way. And we'll talk about that in a minute. I want to go back to the remote that you talked about, Chris. But Ty, was the customers pretty understanding because you were pretty forthcoming with that, and they understood you kind of partnered up?
Yeah. For the most part, I mean, we were talking to our salesmen daily about what was going on, and we made sure that they were talking to all their customers and letting them know what kind of boat we were in, what we were facing. And sometimes we didn't know because the rules were kind of constantly changing. But as long as we were transparent with our customers, I mean, they were great to work with.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And to add to that, we've got a fantastic sales force, and they communicate with their customers constantly. So we're very fortunate in that regard.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I see a few people. Thanks to the folks that are dropping some notes on there. Appreciate everybody stopping by. Share this out, by the way, and check the replays if you'd like. These boys, I think, are bringing some good information here. One thing, Chris, you mentioned remotely. How many of you, or did most of the office work remotely for a while?
Yeah, the vast majority. We got it down to about 3 people in our office when normally we have about 12.
Okay.
And of course, during April, it was a struggle. I mean, everybody tried to get connected, all that type of stuff. It was tough at first. But Michigan went into, second lockdown back in November. And so we just did the same thing, went remote again, but this time it went seamless. And it's really helped us, be remote, but not only that, go to a paperless form of business, which we're really trying to do.
Gotcha. So that's a good, I mean, I guess you try to, I'm going to caveat this with there's no plus to COVID, right? But with that said, you try to find some pluses if you can out of any situation, right? If you can extract a win or two out of something, it's good, right? So the fact it went paperless, that's good. You found the good out of what was bad. And I think that's important because I know the biggest thing I found is adapting. You know, we had to adapt because you mentioned March, and I remember March. I tell the story often, but being on an airplane or getting on an airplane in Tulsa, Oklahoma at Marco Industries to fly home, and wasn't sure I was going to get home. Like you said, the world's ending, right?
Right.
Like I mentioned the other day, I truly felt like in the Tulsa airport, like it was the invasion of the body snatchers. I'm thinking, okay, I got myself in better shape than I used to be, but yet they didn't want me because there's like nobody left, right? And
Right.
Right.
the NBA shutting down. I mean, everything in the world shutting down, and yeah, that was a troublesome, concerning little bit of time until we started figuring out what do we do to adapt to this, right? And I'd like to ask about adapting because it sounds like I want to talk a little more about, I guess, adapting because you guys obviously adapted. Anybody that is coming out of this in a good place did a lot of adapting, right? And to me, and I'd like to know what your thoughts are on this. I like to ask everybody this. I feel like I made major adaptations, and I'm in a better position for whatever 2021 brings than I've ever been for any year, probably ever. And I've been doing this for 4+ decades. I've never been more prepared. And I'm prepared for unknowns because I've learned that I can adapt on the go and not afraid of adaptation. Does that make sense? I mean, that's one big thing that I learned about all this is our ability to just, okay, well, if that's what it is, then we'll do this, right? Is there any common sense to that at all?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think any problem or crisis always brings an opportunity. You're dealing with this, okay. So now we have to just figure out how to get around it. Do we go over it? Do we go under it? Do we go around it? How do you approach it? But so, problems are not necessarily a bad thing. It just kind of widens your view on what else you can be doing instead.
Exactly. So Ty, your sales team obviously works quote remotely anyways. That's what we do, right? We work from home and travel.
Yep.
Have with remote, because I'm kind of a big proponent of remote. I want to go back to traveling more. I need to go back to traveling more. I need to come see you guys soon. There's a lot of things I want to do, but we got to do it when it's right and it makes sense and it fits. But do you? I'm gonna have a guy on next year. Yeah, I could look, but he just popped on a few minutes ago. A good buddy of mine, and we're going to talk about cybersecurity, and that's what his field is. He's an expert in that, and a great buddy. We consider ourselves brothers. He's a great friend, George, but I think that's an area that's going to be an interesting show for everybody that views this program because everybody's susceptible to that. When you start having, forget just sales guys doing it, but when you start having accounts payables and accounts receivables, and you start having more of those kind of, I don't want to say more important, but what's the worst case? Somebody got your pricing somehow. That's not as big a deal as somebody getting your accounts receivables, your accounts payables, getting into some of those things. So is that anything that you guys have put any thought into as you have more and more people working remotely? Is that an area of concern at all or not so much, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And we actually hired a new IT outfit because of reasons like this. And he lives right in Sandusky, and he made sure that as much as we could, that none of that was going to happen because, I mean, that's a huge concern in the world and everywhere right now. So we wanted to make sure that we really put an emphasis and put money into it to make sure that we were a little proactive with it.
Yeah. It's only going to become a bigger problem as time goes on. So you need to be investing in cybersecurity as much as possible early on.
Exactly. Yeah, that's, and as you have more people studying at home or more people working from home, that includes the quote criminal element too, right? And as technology gets better, they get smarter. And so in a few weeks, make sure you watch that because George is highly active in that world, and he's going to bring some great stuff. I think to all of us on how to just personally as well as business wise, right? I mean, I got something the other day from a medical place that was just letting me know that a bunch of their records got hacked. So just be careful. I mean, how many times a year does that happen, right? It's
right.
More.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to look at that and say, that's probably fine. until it's not fine.
Right.
Right. And that's a big deal. So, and it's easy to, I think, for all of us to take those things maybe later than we should. Do you see, so you see maybe, let me ask you this question. And maybe this will be our final thing we talk about before we go to our added wins section. You talk about remote, and all of us have been working more remotely. Where do you see this being more of the norm? Not 100% maybe. I don't think there's ever going to be 100% totally back to normal. That's my take. I'd like your take. I don't think it's ever going to be 100%. Nobody ever travels. I think there's going to be a hybrid in there someplace, right? But I'd be interested, as I'd love to get people's take on this. Do you feel at some point in 2021 we're going to go back partway to what everybody likes to refer to as the quote old normal, or do you don't think that's gone forever, do you? Or do you think it's gone forever? Is there a new normal that we're just going to live with?
You want to start?
So for us, I mean, we're still going to try to go back to having everybody in the office as much as we can. The only thing, so this opened our eyes that if somebody had to work from home, if they had a sick kid or something like that, depending on the position, they could do that. So we're going to, for the position we're in, we're going to try to go back to normal as much as we can. But like I said, it just opened our eyes a little bit to where this is now an option that we didn't have before.
And it wouldn't be, hey, Aaron, it wouldn't be, it's hard to go back for that individual case, right? I do not drink too much.
I like that.
Okay. Wes, Josh doesn't get to come on anymore. Just kidding. I think that, like you said, though, you could be more flexible as an employer, right, to your people's needs now than you could in the past, because that infrastructure is already there. And now if you've done it for months, Sandy calls up and says, hey, my kid's sick, and I think they got to be home for probably all week. Okay, then life sort of goes on 98% normal, right? Where
Yep.
That would have almost been, well, you just lost Sandy for the week in the past, right? So,
correct.
And I think the same way I find with sales folks, like myself, for example, I'm used to being it's Mark. Let's talk about Marks in a minute. Hey, Wes, leave Mark up a minute if you would, so I can remember this. Thank you. I think that I found that I've been a road warrior forever, right? That's all I did. And I want to go back to doing more of it? Yes, I do. But I've also found that if you tell me I can't, I probably have more communication with more customers on a day-to-day basis via all the things we can do remotely, because we've learned the tools are out there and we've learned how to use the tools, right? And if we learn how to use the tools, again, I think that's a win. We extract that loss from the loss of COVID, and we throw that on the win pile, and all of a sudden that came a win. So it's good to hear, because I'm kind of like you guys. Our industry is different than some. There's probably industries out there that'll remain 80% remote, maybe. I could see that. I could see buildings in New York City that they might not fill back up because these people can stay at home in Connecticut and work from the computer, right? I mean, if you're doing those sort of jobs, maybe that makes more sense. Our industry, I think you agree, is more, I'm going to use the term good old boy. It's more bro hugging and, coffee and donuts, pizza at lunch, grab a brewski and a steak in the evening. I think our industry just needs more of that. Would you agree with that? I mean,
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And at the end of the day, humans are social creatures. We want to see people. We want to hang out with people. So, is it going to go back to the way it was? No, it won't. But I don't think it's going to flip, all the way to the other side of things, completely remote. It just doesn't make sense. There's something about having a conversation with somebody, looking them in the eye and talking about your product or whatever you're promoting.
Exactly.
And, really getting to know and connect with somebody.
Exactly. So Mark, buddy of mine, Mark Gassard, he runs he's got some podcasts of his own, and a good friend of mine, been on his show a couple of times. He runs a sales training program. He asked the question, brick and mortar institution versus remote, which is more productive? I think you just semi answered that. This will be the last before we go we get out of the live and we'll come back. But do you find, and I guess productive is an interesting word, and George just asked that, but I think there's a lack of productivity with not being on site, right? As you just said, even if it's just the human interaction part of it, right? But I think, have we found ways, and I guess this is my parting thought on this, that we found ways that when we have to be more remote, or we can be more remote from time to time, whether it's from a cost saving standpoint, whether it's because of, COVID or the next thing that comes along, we found that I think we can handle those things better, as we just talked about, than we used to in the past, right? Because we've learned a lot from that. We've probably learned more in 2020, and we've learned in a long time from that standpoint. That'll be my parting words on that. What do you think of that? And then we'll back on out of here.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you, Randy. And as far as, productivity and whatnot, it kind of depends on the job, right? If you're just crunching numbers all day and you got to bang out some stuff, being home and just, no distractions, it's nice. But also, when you're doing that, you can't just walk over to the next office, get a quick answer. You got to send an email, you got to make a phone call. It's a little tougher. So again, it just kind of depends on the job and whether or not remote's going to be better than brick or mortar.
Okay. Well, guys, we're about 31, 32 minutes in. It goes fast. So really good stuff. I enjoy you guys. If you don't mind, we've got a segment I think I mentioned called Added Wins, where we do an off live recorded version for maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever we want. Would you guys be able to hang around and come back shortly and we'll chat for a few more minutes? Is that good with you guys?
Of course.
We'd love to.
Perfect. Love it. Guys, thanks. I appreciate it very much for being on today. Folks, I hope you enjoyed Chris and Ty. Ty and Chris and Ty, whichever way you're looking at them. Great guys. If you're in need of metal anywhere in the Michigan, Northwest Ohio, Northeast Indiana, wherever, these guys are first class. And guys, thank you. Wes is going to shoot you off to the back room. Go have some grapes and a glass of wine. And we'll be back in a minute and we'll do some more. So guys, there you have it. The Brothers Loding. Hope you enjoyed these guys. As I mentioned, these guys have been good buddies of mine for a long time. And know their dad well. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with these guys. We're going to do a few minutes recorded here in just a moment. But for now, we're going to kind of back on out of the live. First, busy stuff coming up for Building Wins Live. And I appreciate everybody's support. Appreciate you watching. Share this out anytime you can. First thing, who's coming on next week? Building Wins Live next Tuesday, noon Eastern. We've got the boys from Isaiah Industries, Seth and Todd. There they are. I would say the one with the beard, but they both got beards. So the much younger Seth Heckelman, sales manager, and Todd Miller, the president of Isaiah Industries. They're a metal shingle stamping company. They also are roof AquaGuard distributors, importers in the United States. So they're going to be here to talk about some of the same things we've been talking about, how they've went through 2020, 2021, talk about their business and what they do. They've done some unique things during this last year that I think you're going to find interesting. Outstanding guys. So next week, noon Eastern. So talked about busy week. Tomorrow, we have a special edition. This will be at 4:30 Eastern. And I don't know if we've got a hey, we do. There it is. Look at Wes Wyatt. I'm going to give you a shout out in a minute. Wes Wyatt, my producer director. Mike, the pole barn guru. Mike Mom from Fargo, North Dakota area, Hanson Buildings. He's got a podcast and does a lot of social media stuff. Mike and I decided that we really knew each other 30 some years ago. He was a former board of directors of the National Frame Builders Association, the NFBA. So we're going to have a great chat tomorrow live at 4:30. And then we're going to have real fun after that is then Mike and I are going to do a recorded version of his podcast, The Pole Barn Guru, that I think he'll put out on maybe Friday or whatever. So, and lastly, before we get on out of here, on Thursday of this week at 10:30 Eastern, we've got the one and only Brett Williams. Brett is a CEO and president of what's he call his name? I should have that wrote down here, but I might have messed up. But he's a LinkedIn guru. Brett is a marketing guru. He's going to chat with us about how to use LinkedIn to our benefit, how to communicate B2B using LinkedIn and all the good things that LinkedIn bring to date. And you're gonna love Brett. So that's 10:30 tomorrow. So 10:30 tomorrow, or excuse me, Thursday. I'm sorry. Tomorrow is our other boys, our other friends that we talked about. So that's it for now. Aaron, everybody, Mark, everybody, David, thank you, fellas. I appreciate all you jumping on. We're going to get out of here for now. Remember this, important. You only go around once, so live it, love it, own it, and make today your best day ever. Cheers, y'all.